Hello, hello, and welcome to anybody that's out there in this great universe, this strange virtual world that we all hook into. It works by magic, really, doesn't it? So I'm welcoming people, welcoming friends, old and new. John King from Ardnamurchan, thinking of you up there in Scotland, and the storms have died down a little for you and Lynn. Thinking of you doing your early morning bathing in the burn to wake up. Beautiful. Liz Harris, also from Scotland, Fife. And a few others I can see there. Yeah, just tell me you're there and where you're from if I don't know already. It's lovely to have this gathering, which started from just an idea. So tonight, hi Mark from Leicester, beautiful. So tonight we're going to have a brief exploration of divine masculinity. So what's that about? Masculine. And right, I'm going to start with a song and welcoming in Melanie from Los Angeles, I think, California. Beautiful. Thank you. Right, it's a lovely song. And I think, yes, through John King, this came to me. Phil Cowley-Jones wrote this, or it was gifted to him from the universe. And then via John to my friend Nathan, and thus to me. We're all connected. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. I welcome you to join in. I invite you to join if you care to. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. Such a simple song, but such a deeply resonant and as good a song as any, I think, to start a program that looks at the divine masculine. So a while ago, Sovereign Earth number 10, I looked at and considered the feminine, divine femininity. So what's divine about? It's the linking to, relating to, emanating from, touching into deity. So yeah, we can forget that we are part of the divine whole. So if you look, with regards to divine feminine and femininity, yes, having been suppressed for the last few millennia, and still largely suppressed in the apparent world, in the day-to-day world, femininity one feels, I feel, and one recognizes and can feel an upswell of feminine connection with the feminine. Women are on a roll towards re-establishing, reconnecting with the divine side of femininity, and how needed that is at this time. But what tends to be less appreciated and honored, but what I think is just as necessary, and what I provocatively call divine masculinity, is provocative because masculinity and divinity for a lot of people is an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms of divine masculine. And the reason for that is because I think the whole masculinity is a trigger for a lot of people, largely because much of what the masculine that's experienced and exhibited in the world is more of the toxic variety, and more of the patriarchal is more associated with dominance and less fruitful virtues and gifts and qualities, you might say. So I think it's essential that divine masculine is kind of recognized, honored, and reconsecrated, re-established and reconnected with. So let's have a little look at how that might we do that. I mean, it's a bit of a, yeah, divine masculinity. Yeah, go on, up yours kind of thing. Who's to say divine masculinity? But the truth is, it's an aspiration. It's a guide. It's a point to which we can aspire as men. And I think actually the divine masculine within the feminine is crucial too. So we've got to recognize we're all fully flawed as human beings. Men, as women will attest, particularly so. No, all of us. I jest, but there's, yeah, divine masculinity. Let's see what that might pan out as, how that might manifest. It's interesting to me that in spiritual circles, over the years that I've been involved in them, if you go back 3 decades or more, if you could guarantee if you went to something spiritual, some talk or some meditation, that you'd be vastly outnumbered by women, 5 or 6 to 1. And over the years, that might have come down to 3 or 4 to 1, and it might still be gradually easing through, but it's still the case that there are a lot more women. If you go to a yoga class, if you go to a spiritual, well, the songs I lead, it's more women than men. 2 or 3 to 1, 2 or 3 to 1. Okay. So, but the divine masculine, okay, it's coming through, or it needs to come through, or we're lost. But it's not just in circles of gathering that the feminine is more predominant. When I came to look up some songs to connect with some masculine songs to embody divine masculine, there's far fewer in the sacred realm, at least. In sacred, I suppose you could go rock music is, you have male bands at one level, although that can tend towards the toxic too. But in sacred music, there aren't so many what you could call male energy songs. There are a good few, but here's one I'd like to share with you, courtesy of Corwin Broch, who wrote this. He's up in Orkney now, but I haven't seen him for a few years. But I think this one embodies the masculine energy. See if you can connect with it. Let the horns grow on my head. Let my blood run reddest red. Let the horns grow on my head. Let the horns grow tall. Let them grow as the drum does sound. Let them grow as the horn resounds. Let them grow as the hooves do pound. Let the horns grow tall. I would run and I would fly with birds and beasts of land and sky. When this body I let fall, let the horns grow tall. Let the horns grow on my head. Let my blood run reddest red. Let the horns grow on my head. Let the horns grow tall. So it goes on, but there's something. What is it about that? Can you feel that male energy coursing through that song, and coursing through your body, enabled by that song? Stirring. That's one aspect of it. Stirring, inviting us to life, inviting us to be in the world, I would suggest, present and embodied. brave and strong, just like in all the best children's books. As a young boy, like all young boys, I suspect, if you're lucky enough to have stories read to you at least, that call to nobility, I'd call it, a call to nobility, a call to courage, a call to uphold what is right and true, to fight for justice, to fight for the poor and the oppressed. Is it just me? I don't think so. I felt that as a boy really strongly. It kind of fades away a bit, but comes through again later. So at our source as men, at our best, or at least aspiring to our best, we know that our role is to provide and to protect, and to honor and to enable. And somehow, yeah, I use the word sacrifice. I think there is an aspect or an element of sacrifice for the greater good, for the whole, for the better, for the bigger part in some way. So we know what it is that we aspire to and we fall short of, but because we're mortal and we naturally must fall short, and that's okay. I think perfection is in the imperfection. But I'm blessed to know a group of men, a good group of men. You know, in fact, several groups of men in my life, but there's a particular group, the Mankind Project. If there's a man in your life, or a friend, or you, that wants to further your connection to the masculine, to manhood, I recommend Mankind Project. I've seen it work wonders for many men, including myself. So I'm fortunate to know what I'd call real men. So they're full of foibles and failings, like the best of us. But I think the difference is they're prepared to own the less than likable stuff. They're prepared to work towards being the man they would like to be, and as best they can, and me with them. So anyway, here's another. I'm going to come on to some attributes and qualities of what might represent divine masculinity, just personal thoughts. But I'm going to offer you another song first, another male energy song, but perhaps appropriately, it's written by a woman, just as divine feminine songs can be written by men. So this is by Kiliana Geroum, who I was fortunate enough, I worked with her and a group of others in Holland a few years ago, facilitating a fire walk. And this was a song she offered, which I believe she wrote, or came to her. Fire transform me, lead me to my passion. Fire transform me, lead me to my passion. I choose life, yes, I choose courage. I choose life, yes, I choose courage. To dance within the flame, to dance within the flame, to dance within the flame, to dance within the flame. So yes, fire transform me, lead me to my passion. Yeah, it's true for women as well, but there's certainly a masculine energy in there for me. Something powerful, grounding, that drum beat, and a call to arms, a call to life, a call to courage. So I could share a whole series of episodes of Sovereign Earth on the subject of divine masculine and divine feminine for that matter. But, and we could still be left wondering. But so in this finite window of opportunity that we've got here together, what is it that might help us to get a window on divine masculinity? It occurs to me it's a bit like eldership, to which it's related. But it's something we tend to know when we see it, or more likely when we feel it. We experience it and we know it in our bones and in our blood. It's quite difficult to define it. But I came up with a few things kind of off the cuff. But what for me represents divine masculinity? I'd say the man who's scared to his very core, and yet somehow he's still able to summon up the courage to examine and to own his darkest and deepest shadows. So that's one. There's a saying that we've in the men's world, in the men's group, if you don't heal what hurts you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. I'll say that again. If you don't heal what hurts you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you. Now that applies to women too, but it's particularly true, I mean, for men. Why is most violence in the world perpetrated by men? I suggest it's to do with that. So the man who is prepared to admit to and submit to even his own vulnerability, his supreme vulnerability, and thereby finds the grace and the strength to fully be in this world, and it's in doing so serving both himself and others with honor and respect. So that's a vulnerability issue. It's interesting, isn't it? These are a lot of feminine qualities in order to come into divine masculinity. It works the other way too. So another aspect of it might be, I suggest, the man who is transparent and honest, even though, as he must, it hurts. So to be transparent and honest, even though that is really, can be very testing, painful, challenging, and prepared to work for truth and beauty in a world that is often, as what do I say, full of shadows and shallows. So transparency, vulnerability, scared and yet able to summon up the courage. So owning all that. I'm prepared to not only bring light to the darkness, but darkness to the light, I would suggest, to bring balance. So in service to a world of balance. So I'm reminded of a saying, it takes so much to be a human being that there are very few who have the love and the courage to pay the price. One has to abandon altogether the search for security and reach out to the risk of living with both arms. One has to embrace life like a lover. And I think that's been a guide for me, certainly the latter part of my life, the last half of my life. That's one of the good reminders of what it is. So let's just take a few moments. For those who are familiar, we're going to go into our global grove space. So I invite you first just to close your eyes. We'll all close our eyes. And if you've not done this before, it doesn't matter. You just fall into it along with the rest of us. So just deepening our breath. Really coming into the body. And in our mind's eye, deeply relaxed now. Taking ourselves into a clearing in the woods with a circle of trees before us. Some of us will be familiar with this. This will be familiar for others. It might be something new. So a circle of trees, this global grove we're coming into together from around the world. Place of healing and beauty, sacred grove. And as we stand on the edge of the grove, all of us in a circle, at the center there's a large and a majestic tree. I might even go so far as to say, let this tree represent in your own mind's eye the divine masculine. This tree is a representative in the tree world of the divine masculine. What might that look like? What does it look like? I've got my own image here now before me. What does yours look like? What does it feel like? What does it emanate? What are its qualities? What is its energy? And as you stand and look at this tree, you're aware of something taking shape within its trunk. The emergence of a human form, a divine masculine figure, emerges from the tree. What does the divine masculine figure look like to you? What does it feel like? And so as you stand, so you walk over, if you feel inclined to, walk as near to them as is comfortable for you. Walk up to them if it's comfortable, or find your distance, you can approach them and stand before the tree, the majestic divine masculine tree and the divine masculine human form. You stand there with both before you. And if it's appropriate, some gift is presented to you or given to you somehow, either via the tree or via the man or from both of them. And if nothing comes, that's all right too. Just the gift of their presence is enough. So if something's been gifted to you, fine. And you give gratitude. You just a gentle bow, perhaps, and an acknowledgement of gratitude, a gesture of gratitude that's right for you. And you return round and you walk back to the edge of the grove. And when you turn round, the man has disappeared back into the tree, but the tree is still there. They're both there, but the man has disappeared into the tree. And just giving gratitude again, you take your leave gracefully and graciously from this sacred grove, from the global grove. You let your mind release that image, and you come back gently but strongly and firmly into the room you're sitting in with the screen before you. And like me, you're about to open your eyes. Okay. So I'm blessed to work with a group of good-hearted and amazingly generous men, and we work this weekly meeting with a group of boys, teenage boys, and we typically will sit around a fire up in the woods, and we'll sort of explore what it is to be a man in all its with all its challenges, with all its beauty, with all its tears, with all its grief, with all its joy, with all its demands, and we'll seek to model that honestly. And the boys, ranging between 13 and 14 up to 18, 19, even 20. So they're young men, boys through to emerging men. We explore some of the really powerful and just the simple, often the ordinary, but it can be very powerful. We explore all aspects of what it is to be a man. And in that safe space, it's quite incredible what what can emerge. So just the last few weeks, my mind goes back, and the wisdom and the maturity and the insight that those young men give us as older men is quite phenomenal. And I know that they feel similarly the other way. It's a two-way gift. But once a year, here's the bit, once a year, we have a rites of passage weekend with these young men, where the boys are offered an experiential series of processes where they can, which has the capacity to bring them into a better connection, a better relationship to manhood. It's a whole set of processes, but its importance is experiential. It needs to change, it needs to be embodied. Now, the key thing that happens, as I've witnessed it over the years, the key thing that happens when that initiation is effective, and it generally and more often is, occasionally not, but very often, generally is, it works. And what happens is they transit from what you could call an attachment, an affinity, a need even for the mother as mummy, and it transitions. They change that relationship. There's a healthy break with that, and a new relationship, or at least bringing into, it's been there from birth, but it's bringing into full awareness the relationship and the connection with the greater mother, the divine mother, sovereign earth, which is what this is all about. And they come into a relationship of serving, rather than being served by mummy, they serve the mother. And actually, it's my estimation that boys who've had the luck to go through that process, they come into a healthy relationship with women in their lives and with themselves. Yeah, and that's what we need. If only all boys could come into that relationship, and if only we'd all been given that gift as young aspiring men in our teens, rather than having to stumble on it, often not wisely and ill-healthily through later life. But it's happening, and it's beautiful. So here's a song to finish. So yeah, it's very difficult in a short time, but hopefully you've got something from this about divine masculine, the healthy masculine, better way of putting it, the healthy masculine. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. So yeah. Okay, so I'll check all the comments later, and thank you for all that you gift and bring to this. It's a joint enterprise in service to the Divine Mother, Mother Earth. Goodbye, and many blessings, lots of love. Bye.